You didn't get manipulated by accident. You were studied first. There are three types of people who don't just meet you. They build a profile on you. They test how quickly you apologize. They watch what you tolerate. And the moment they see it, they write it down. By the time something feels off, the profile is already complete. Most people think manipulation is random. It isn't. It's targeted, deliberate, and it starts long before you realize anything is happening. These three types don't operate the same way. They don't want the same things, but they all do one thing identically. They study you first. They run a quiet evaluation. They test your boundaries, your reactions, your needs, and then they move. You were selected, not stumbled upon. And if you've ever walked away from a relationship feeling confused or smaller than you were, like everything somehow became your fault, that's not a coincidence. That's the aftermath. Let's get straight into it. The first type doesn't introduce themselves as dangerous. They introduce themselves as interested, deeply interested. They ask questions, they lean in, they remember small details you mentioned once, and bring them back later like they matter. It feels like connection. It isn't, because what they're doing is scanning. They're mapping what you need emotionally, what kind of validation you respond to, whether you need to feel seen, admired, understood, or chosen. Because the narcissist doesn't study you to know you. They study you to know what you'll give them. Think about someone in your life right now. Someone who made you feel extraordinary at first. Someone who seemed to see you in a way no one else did. What did you give them? Attention, admiration, loyalty? That wasn't chemistry. That was a transaction. And only one of you knew the terms. Here's how the scan works. You meet someone. Within the first few conversations, they mirror you, your tone, your opinions, your energy. They agree easily. They reflect you back to yourself. Slightly improved. They don't just listen. They measure how you respond. This is mirroring, and it's not accidental. They're testing which version of you gets the strongest reaction. Because once they know that, they control the lever. And if you're honest, it worked on you. That's why you're still thinking about it. The scary part? They are better at being you than you are. They don't just make a good impression. They make you feel like you've finally been understood. And once you're invested, everything shifts. The attention becomes inconsistent. The warmth becomes conditional, and you start working to get back to how it felt in the beginning. That's the trap. You're no longer being studied. You're being managed. The confusion, the second guessing, the over explaining, that's not random. That's the profile. It being used against you. They don't hate you. They need you. But what they need, you can never fully give. And they'll make sure that you keep trying. Think about the one person you trust who never seems to get angry, even when they should. That's not peace. That's observation. The second type is different. Colder, more controlled, more dangerous. The psychopath doesn't study you for validation. They study you for leverage. They're not looking for what you'll give emotionally. They're looking for what you'll do under pressure, and they're very good at finding it. Here's what they watch: how you handle conflict. Do you back down quickly? Do you apologize when you're not wrong? Do you protect yourself or keep the peace? They watch your relationships. Who do you trust? Who do you fear losing? What would you sacrifice to keep them? They watch your insecurities, not to comfort them, to store them. Everything you share casually, openly, honestly, gets recorded because information is control. Here's what they're collecting: your weak boundaries, your emotional triggers, your loyalty patterns. That's the profile. At this point, most people realize they've already passed one of these tests. Don't analyze it. Just notice who came to mind. Someone has already seen you over-apologize, already watched you bend your own boundaries, already heard you talk about your fears. The question isn't whether they have that information. The question is what they plan to do with it. You trust someone at work, in a relationship, anywhere. They feel safe, supportive. So you open up. Weeks pass, maybe months. Then something shifts. They move forward. You don't. And somehow, what you said in private starts working against you. You can't prove it. That's the point. They don't need to like you. They don't need to hate you. You are a variable, something to be used if it benefits them. And here's the uncomfortable part. Some of this might feel familiar, not because you've seen it, but because you've adapted to people like this before. You've read situations, adjusted your behavior, used information later. The difference was intent. The difference is control. They're not connecting. They're calculating. And they started long before you knew the system existed. That's why they don't hesitate. No guilt, no second guessing, no signal that anything is wrong. That's what makes them hard to detect. They don't look dangerous, they look composed. The third type is the most underestimated. The first takes your attention. The second takes your control. The third takes your future. The Machiavellian doesn't study you for validation. They don't study you for short-term leverage. They study you for position. Long-term. They are playing a game that extends far beyond the moment, and you are part of a structure, so you don't see that they control what they reveal. You feel like you know them, but you don't. They build relationships carefully. Nothing is random. Everything serves a purpose, and they study you specifically. Your network, your value, your usefulness. Now and later. They don't rush. They don't need to. You meet someone like this. They help you, connect you, support you. It feels like they're building you up. And they are. Just not for you. For position. Because eventually, you feel like you owe them. And when the moment comes, you say yes. Not because you were forced, because it feels right. That's the design. That's the moment. The position locks in. They don't react. They arrange. And the unsettling part is, you may never feel attacked, just guided. Until you realize you were placed. Everything I just showed you is useless if you don't understand the signal you're giving off right now. There is a reason they chose you and not someone else. They're scanning for patterns. And the hardest part, you've already shown them everything they needed. They're looking for empathy without boundaries. You care deeply, but you don't always protect yourself. They see that. They're looking for approval sensitivity. You adjust, you smooth things over, you restore peace. That tells them how to move you. They're looking for loyalty. You stay even when something feels wrong. That tells them how far they can push. And then there's validation. If part of you needs to feel chosen, seen, important, that becomes a signal. The narcissist sees it. The psychopath stores it. The Machiavellian builds around it. This isn't your fault, but it becomes your pattern if you don't see it. Because once you do, everything changes. You stop being impressed by intensity. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop correcting people who benefit from misunderstanding you. You start noticing the tests. Small ones. A comment slightly off. A boundary slightly pushed, and a pause. To see what you do. That's not random. That's data collection. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You were not manipulated because you were weak. You were targeted because you were readable. Because you had something they wanted. And they found it. Before you knew you were being watched. These patterns are predictable. Repeatable. Almost scripted. The narcissist needs your reflection. The psychopath needs your leverage. The Machiavellian needs your position. And all of them started before you did. But now you see it. You stop reacting. You start observing. You stop explaining. You start evaluating. You stop being studied. And you become someone who sees the system. They studied you to find your weakness. But now that you see the pattern they used to find it, they don't get a second read.